Yeah, see, Michael, you did that last time, and I kept your bit because Nathaniel told me to.
Don't be as old. Keep that. Keep
I
it.
mean, that's okay.
Was that a
We
good Alien cold open?
that's the one we're going with then. That's it.
Jordan, do it.
Welcome.
Jordan,
That's good.
record
That's
that
good.
video with the theme song to Alien playing in the background.
Alien 1979. After a space merchant vessel receives an unknown transmission as a distress call, one of the crew is attacked by a mysterious life form, and they soon realize that its life cycle has merely begun.
One thing I didn't remember, and I was really impressed by, probably I thought the most about this watch through, is that Ridley really is not the main character until she becomes one. If you watch the movie without having seen any promotion material or anything else, she very much feels like a side character. She doesn't have that much screen time in the first half of the film. She probably doesn't even really talk much at all in the first half of the film. And it very much seems like it's an ensemble film about this crew. And it's really only once characters die and she's put into a place of taking control that she becomes the main character, which I think is really interesting. I think it is really interesting that it is a horror. It has horror elements, but I think it was marketed I think it was built first and foremost as a really interesting sci-fi world and a sci-fi story that happens to also be scary. I love all the huge sets. The really huge practical sets are really interesting. I personally kind of think it was a mistake for the series to eventually explain all this lore and stuff. I think the series is at its best right now, where it's mysterious, because it does connect to, again, these almost Lovecraftian elements of these things that are so much bigger than you can understand. Getting to this planet and seeing this massive skeleton there and seeing all this infrastructure built up and not knowing what it is and how it connects and having to handle literally the first real alien interaction they've had and it be something this unknown and terrifying is really cool.
This movie is the first in this whole series that's really been in my wheelhouse and that I have nostalgia for and all that. But it was interesting watching it because I had always thought of it and approached it as a sci-fi film just because that's always the genre I've put it in. But it was interesting having now seen all these horror classics, realizing how neatly it fits sort of in the horror slasher film genre. I just never clicked that much before. But yeah, it's always great. Love this movie. Great watching it again. I just love the world of this movie. I love that especially just in this first one, that it's not even it's not even telling you that much about what the world is like in the future. It's really just telling you about this one random crew of 7 people on this junker ship is doing. And you know nothing about the government, politics, what humanity's doing, anything like that. You just know there's this merchant vessel and they find an alien. And I love kind of that world and that small scale storytelling that this movie has.
If you want a movie to not age as much, do it practical. It's been proven time and time again throughout this whole series that we're doing. This movie's from the 70s. This is 1979.
Yeah.
They don't have
this
many
movie
digital effects
doesn't
that they can
age
rely on.
at all. Besides
No.
maybe a couple of the spaceship shots, everything else looks like a movie that could have been made now.
It is an incredible movie. It's incredible sci-fi. I don't think the scares hold up as much, but I think it's still an incredible sci-fi to go back to. So I just really enjoy watching this movie.
I also love with this movie, it breaks the horror genre a bit in that besides the opening act where several characters make dumb decisions, after that, every character acts very intelligently and approaches a situation like a bunch of scientists and professionals would. It's not the Friday the 13th or Cabin in the Woods or whatever, where you have teenagers handling a situation poorly. You actually have professionals and adults handling it in a professional, clinical way, and it's still not working out for them, which I think adds a lot more depth and even a lot more terror to the situation.
And it's important, I think, to recognize how well the execution of Ridley as a secondary or tertiary character is, because it's not just a writing thing. It requires a tremendous amount of acting abilities on everyone's part, and how they write characters to make every one of these characters equally compelling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's always kind of a trope, I feel like, whenever you needlessly include additional characters, that they always feel like they're out of place. You know, they always feel like, either based off of the casting, the way the characters look, or the performance, the writing given to them, that the writers spent their time developing the character they wanted to develop, and then did the bare minimum for the other characters.
That's another thing about revisiting these older movies, is realizing like how much they have to rely on being more subtle than I would expect. Yeah. Like when I think about this movie, I think about like how bloody the deaths were, but the deaths are fairly, like, yet again, it's pretty tame.
Sure, Jan.
I feel like it would be interesting to do like a back-to-back with this and John Carpenter's The Thing, because I feel like both of them could really work as companion pieces, where you get all of these, like, this huge group of characters in this secluded place, and they don't know what they're dealing with, and that's the reason why it's called Alien. They don't even say that it's a xenomorph, because they have no clue what they're dealing with.
They don't know what it is yet. Yeah.
I feel like almost like a lot of the elements of like terror in The Thing were at least in some way inspired by Alien, because like specifically the dinner sequence with the chest burster 100% feels like it came straight out of The Thing.
Clear.
Like, yet again, it's pretty tame.
Yeah, again, this is a movie that I always love watching. Always love this movie. Yeah, great sci-fi, absolutely great storytelling, sets up an interesting world that doesn't quite deliver in the later movies, but that's fine. But as a movie in itself, this is definitely a classic, and if you've managed to not see this movie yet, you should watch it.
I love all the practical effects. I love how practical the set itself is, and the sort of weight that it adds to this really feeling like a real world. I love that it is based in a very futuristic science fiction world, and at least in this first installment, doesn't focus on getting lost and sidetracked in lore and world building. It remains mysterious, and it thrives and really lives to its fullest potential in that mystery and in that unknown sense of terror. I think it has a great villain, a great antagonist, really well-written characters all around. It writes an ensemble that turns into a solo film better than, I think, almost any other film I've seen for that. And that's based off of not only excellent writing, but excellent performances. I love the way they use the location as a means of enhancing this terror and really give it its own sense and weight and purpose. And I think it's an excellent film. Definitely fundamental for a lot of the sci-fi that would follow it. And really, we would not be in the same place we are right now when it comes to sci-fi and terror and movies in general were it not for this film.
There are some effects that I do think, I know I didn't cover it in my like main portion. There's some effects that I do feel have aged like slightly, like some puppetry that they hold on to the shot a little bit too long, just since it's so revealing. I don't think they were prepared for HD remakes and people to being able to pause it. It's tense, and I think there's a lot to appreciate about it. I don't think it's necessarily scary anymore, but I feel like it's pretty accessible and pretty like well done enough for anyone to appreciate like the craft of it. Alien. There we go.
Alien.
Number 14.
What's coming up next?
Hey.
I was just celebrating a little bit. You don't get snippy with me. Next up we got...
What's next, Jordan?
Okay. Next up, we got Cabin in the Woods. Get off my back.
Finally. God.
Cool.
Cool. Thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
We're always glad to be here. Always glad to have you watching us. And like and subscribe and, chill out. Be sweet to each other. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.